I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we would all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to introduce our officers. I'm Sharon, the president. Larry, he's the vice president. Bruce, he's our secretary. Gordon, he's our treasurer. Steve, he's tech and membership. Members at large, Bob Whalen. Dan Cook, because he's not here today. Carol Taylor. Dick Tu, and Jim Obanoff. Okay, an honorable mention to our donut wrangler, Dennis Abrams. And I think he has a birthday coming up. It was Sunday? Okay, well, happy birthday, belated birthday to you, Dick. Okay, huh? Oh, it's still the next one. Okay. Okay, so our Fallen Veterans Program today, we're going to honor two of our fallen veterans. So, Bob, if you would come up.
Two things. The first thing I'd like to make people aware of is that we have filled two of our boards with the names of fallen veterans, and we now have one name on the third board. And I think we have to take a look at the board and remember the names of many of those people that we see up there. Secondly, I want to recognize two fallen veterans that we have that we want to remember at this time. The first one is Hayden Spencer, U.S. Army, and we have representatives from his family who are here. And we also have Malcolm Potter, U.S. Coast Guard, to remember at this time also. And I'd like to mention Christine Potter. Would you like to say a couple of words before we have taps, please?
First, I'd like to present this donation in Malcolm's name to the club. He felt this was the best of everything that Sunset had to offer. He was only here a year, but he loved this club and it just meant a lot to him. So I appreciate all of you and all the welcome you gave him and made his life more meaningful that last year. Also, we will be having a celebration of his life at 4 o'clock on June 13th, which is a Saturday, with food and all sorts of stuff. And you're all welcome to come. Thank you.
Christine is making a donation of $500 to the Sunflower Community Veterans Club. And I'd like everyone to stand for taps.
I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulties back here, so we're going to try it one more time.
All right. Thank you all.
I want to thank all the family members for coming and being part of this tribute today. God bless them both. Okay, so today, Bruce, do you want to come up and say just a little piece of?
Hi, everyone. So I want to apologize to all the spouses whom I may have misled, but it was not intentional coming in to learn about the benefits you so worthily have coming to you when your fallen veteran or passes away. What got mixed up was person that was coming out from the Arizona Regional Veterans Administration to speak about the benefits got sick, and I had to bring somebody else in, and John is here with us today. So I'm sorry that we don't have that speaker this month. We talking to him, and it looks pretty certain for next month. And I invite you all back. And I also want to mention, wives of veterans are always welcome here on a membership meeting. You're always welcome to come to this meeting. So thank you, and again, my excuses.
Okay, our speaker today is John McLane, and he is from the Veterans Rescue Mission. John, if you want to, did you want to stand here? Or do you want a mic? We'll take a mic.
Well, let me start with obviously thanking God because I wouldn't be able to do anything if God wasn't here. And secondly, Bruce, thank you for inviting me to speak in front of so many silent heroes. I mean, I've been blessed in the past decade or so to speak in a lot of groups of veterans like yourself. And I know when I say silent heroes, a lot of you are saying, nah, not me, not me. But we are. We are. You know, when we sat and we looked at that line, we read all that stuff that said they can do science experiments on us, we'd give our life, all that stuff, and we still sign. You guys are heroes in my eyes, for sure. But I like to do a little activity before I even get into what we do, how we do, why we do, just to give people a sense of how I went from being a middle class, well taken care of, sheltered kid to being a man that has dedicated his life to helping the homeless and helping homeless veterans for the past 20 years of his life. So in that, I ask you, and when I ask you to raise your hand, raise it and then keep it up. If you've ever been homeless in your life, please raise your hand. Wow, you guys are very fortunate. Very fortunate. I'll raise my hand because I'm one of those. Okay, we have one. If you ever known a loved one, close friend, or family member that's been homeless, raise your hand. Well, that's actually pretty good. We're very fortunate on that one. This week, driving around town or in the world, if you saw a homeless person, raise your hand. Yeah, we see. So it's a little bit different impression there. And that there kind of gives us an understanding of how I went from this shelter world where I never been homeless. I never had my dad, my family member, never been homeless. Only time, I mean, even at a point, especially here in the city of Tucson, we didn't really even see homeless people unless you went to a particular area. But there was one day that I went to that particular area and my life changed. But before I tell that part of the story, let me take a big step back, because like yourselves, people don't care what you're doing. They care why you're doing it. And a big reason why is my testimony. And then to kind of just connect with all you guys. When I was 18 years old, it was 2001. And as we all know, something huge happened in 2001, so much that we all lost a little bit of innocence. And when that happened on 9/11, it just crashed. It crushed me. It crushed me so much that 2 weeks later, I told my dad, take me down to the recruiter's office. I'm joining the Army. We're going in. We're going in. I actually wanted the Air Force, but it's a long story. So I joined the Army, go to basic training, go to AIT. 6 days later, they send me to Iraq. I'm in Kuwait as George Bush is telling Saddam, you have 48 hours to get out. One of the first 10,000 people to go into Iraq. I didn't watch a lot of Rambo growing up, so I wasn't one of like the who shoot 'em up type guys. I was actually a fuel and water chemist. So I was just going in and setting up all the gas stations and water stations. I was actually a reservist here in Tucson. So I wasn't expecting to be involved in this level at all. But by God's grace, I made it back physically in one place, in one piece. And I'm here to talk about it. And I got back after serving in Iraq for 18 months, because that was the first tours were 18-month tours. And thankfully it worked. I adjusted pretty well. Went to the U of A, got a marketing degree, started several different businesses, pool, landscaping, event planning, advertising and marketing. So much that it led me into being a radio show host. I hosted a radio show here in Tucson for nearly 2 decades. And off of that, I also ran for mayor of the city of Tucson in 2011. And this is where my, the privilege of my life and building up to, this at 26, 27 years old, kind of building a name took a sharp turn. Because in running against Jonathan Rothschild, who actually won, he's a really nice guy. He turned me on to what the homeless problem was. He was the one who took me to that area and showed me, hey, if you want to help people, if you want to do something, this is what it looks like. And once I saw not only that there's so many homeless people in Tucson that we just didn't know, that there was a system preventing people from helping homeless people, I really dove in. And in 2011, I organized around the city of Tucson to try to figure out how can we help the homeless better. I traveled around the United States for 5 years to try to learn how they're helping people, how we can bring that here. In the middle of that, I was actually in a lawsuit with the city of Tucson that we settled in 2015. I used that money to purchase a 1-acre property just northwest of Vina and Thornydale that we call Veteran Rescue Mission. So the idea with this Veteran Rescue Mission was I wanted a tiny house village that was an eco village, was relatively sustainable, but could locate a homeless veteran, get them to our shelter, get him through the list of programs that he needed, get him connected with housing and his family and a job, and have him sitting here with us, when he gets into his elder years. And thankfully, in doing that, I was able to shelter over 1,000 people at our shelter since 2015, and every single one of those people we've got connected with housing. So I'm so thank you. So and in conjunction with that, just like any organization, and that's kind of why, in a lot of ways I find myself in rooms of anybody who will listen, shaking a cup, because about 2 years into doing this homeless veteran transition program, the coffers really started to run out. And my family and my children, we lived at the tiny house village with these guys, so that way, there's 15 people at the time, so that way, we can use our resources, we can be there to assist them. But it got to the point where my family and I are eating hot dogs and ramen noodles just to make ends meet. And I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna maybe have to kick these guys out. I got a 72-year-old Marine with dementia that I might have to send back to the park because me and my family are like kind of going hungry. So once again, regularly, I'll go to prayer and God, okay, what do you want me to do, God? You want me to give it all? I'll give it all. But if you got some answers, I could really use them. And God was like, hey, knucklehead, you got other gifts, you got other talents that I've given you. Use them. So once again, I restarted the radio show. It's called the Common Good Radio Show. I'm gonna pass around these cards. Unfortunately, I didn't bring more, but I'll pass them to the table. Please take a look at it on the back. It kind of speaks to some of the mini programs that we've done over the years. But the radio show, a TV show we created just to highlight the good in the community. First, we started trying to talk about highlighting what we're doing, but we've had almost every nonprofit in the city of Tucson on. I'm guessing one day we'll have you guys on our show. And that thankfully made it so we could fund Veteran Rescue Mission and do the things that we did. And then with getting grants and things like that, private donations like yours over the years have made it so Veteran Rescue Mission is actually a sustainable program. And then we also partnered with, like you see on my shirt, Home Community Services, which is a counseling firm. So all the people that are in our program, not only do we get them connected with their family, with jobs, with housing, but we make sure that they get that mental health treatment that they need. Because even if it's just once a year, to be able to sit down and talk to somebody is helpful. So that kind of brings us to where we are now. For over 10 years, 11 years now, I've been running Veteran Rescue Mission. I've been going out, locating homeless veterans, getting them connected with our services. And kind of to close, one of our big events that we do every year, and definitely any donation that you make today will be going to plan that, is every year I go and I live on the street myself for up to a month. Last year, I did it for 5 days that I walked from our shelter on Island and Thornydale through the city, through the tunnels, through the high concentrated homeless area to Ajo and 6, where the VA is, in hopes to connect homeless veterans with the VA. And while I live on the streets, we camp out, we locate the homeless, let them know about what services are available for them. And it's a campaign that we do every year. This will be the 16th year that we've done it. And that is one of the main outreach mechanisms we use to connect with the homeless and to teach yourselves how to connect with the homeless. So this year, when we did it, actually last year when we did it, we had over 34 people march 35 miles and camp out with us. So definitely, I'll close with that idea. Look at the card, go to veteranrescuemission.org if you want to donate, if you want to be part of that march this year, and certainly any way you want to be involved, we'd love to have you involved because we definitely need your help. Thank you. I guess if you have any questions, I'm open to it. Yes, ma'am. The VA and yeah. Well, as far as getting money out of the VA, that's kind of like, I don't know, getting money out of your tight dad in a lot of ways. But working with them, that's that's primarily what we do as an organization is we do benefit navigation. So when I do find a veteran, let's say out in the desert in a tent, the first thing I do is like, hey, let me drive you over to the VA and get you registered and get you set up. Because that's where I'm gonna get you your housing voucher. That's where I might be able to get you some work over there. And that's gonna be the medical assistance that we're gonna get. Because that's, I mean, like I'm guessing, let me show of hands. How many people after they got out of the military took more than 5 years to register with the VA? Yeah. Well, that's actually a pretty good number because people on the streets, almost all of them haven't registered with the VA. And that's the first step. Yeah.
And we partner and get grant money from the West Haven VA. And it's not hard to do. You just have to go to the outreach domiciliary community care people and say, this is what we're doing. Can you help us do it?
Well, we've been blessed to get a lot of different grants over the year, but definitely through the VA and the Continuum of Care program, it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight, particularly here in Tucson. The organizations that have been getting those funds for all the years, they kind of have a lock hold on it for the most part. And especially with our facility, and I highly invite you to go check it out on 7670 North Stargrass Drive. It's a tiny house village, so the HUD standards doesn't meet that. So it's not like a building, and HUD's very specific of how they fund COEs and infrastructure.
Old houses. We took 2 old houses, got the funds, remodeled them, and they have so they do meet the standards for that.
Yeah, that's definitely in the plans in the future. We're thinking of trying to buy a big house to do a sober living house and an apartment complex. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Tunnel to Towers work with homeless vets and what they've been doing by rehabbing old hotels and having an all-service center there where they get medical, psychiatric, everything?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to that particular village, but like I was talking about earlier, I pretty much traveled around the United States for the past 15 years, just seeing how other people are doing it. I've been to almost every single tiny house village in the United States. So a lot of what I studied was what are the kind of alternative, what are these like little special ways that people are being helped? Because the big thing I see with the homeless veteran population, or at least that I feel with the homeless veteran population, is there's a certain level of respect that we deserve when getting that service. I mean, I think when I really got into this initially, I just thought about my 62-year-old military intelligence mom who, what if, she were homeless tomorrow and I was helping her? And because we have a lot of the misconceptions with, helping homeless people, or homeless people, they don't want it, or they just want to do drugs and want to do this, but that's not usually the case. So I like to think of it as my 62-year-old mom, like, okay, how should I talk to this person? How do they treat this person? How should I behave with this person to get them where they need to get? Because if I keep trying to force what I think they should do, it's probably not going to work. Because I know my mom. My mom's a tough lady. Like she's going to take what she wants. She's not going to take what I'm going to give her.
How does a person actually end up on the street? I mean, they at one time were part of the society. They were working. So what happened? What are the 3 main reasons they end up homeless?
That's a good question. That's a good question. A very good question, actually. Back in 2022, La Frontera, it's one of the main social service organizations in the city of Tucson. They paid our organization to do a research study to figure out why aren't the homeless better utilizing the services, and where is the gap? And in doing that, we asked 200 homeless people around the city of Tucson 6 survey questions. And one of those survey questions is, how did you become homeless? And the top 3 answers to that was the loss of a loved one, a medical situation, and loss of a job. I mean that's pretty cut and dry. I think a lot of people want to think that because of mental health issues or substance abuse issues, one becomes homeless. But in my experience, it's the other way around. The chicken is actually homelessness, and the egg are the symptoms of that situation. Where, like, for example, let's just say, how long have you been married? Are you married? How long have you been married? 38 years. Okay. Okay. So let's just say you're God forbid your wife passed away tomorrow, and it really just I imagine it hit you in the feels. Being married to someone 38 years. I've been married to my wife for 18 years, and I if she left tomorrow, go ahead, cash me in. I mean, I'm a cuckoo, you know. So that's a lot of what I'm seeing is, you know, people had something, whether it happened in their childhood or happened in their adulthood, that was extremely traumatic, catastrophic, and they're just figuring out how to readjust to it.
How do you approach a large group of homeless people? And are you concerned about your safety at all? And also, how do you determine that they're a veteran?
It's both good questions. Both good questions. One, I definitely, the first one, being scared of homeless people, I've heard a lot. Actually, I invite you today, Google my name, John McLane, Tucson, and you'll see a lot of news articles that I've been participating in. And one of them, it was an Arizona Republic journalist that posed the question. The title of the article was, "Why do homeless people scare me?" And then when she talked to me about it, I was just like, you know, why are, you know, homeless people scare me? You know, why aren't you afraid of homeless people? I was like, well, I'm actually more afraid of like gangsters and cartel and bikers. But usually when I go into a homeless camp, whether it's a group of 1 or 2 or a group of 20, I mean, it's kind of like snakes realistically. Is like they're more afraid of me than I am of them. Like these are some people that are really going through some vulnerable stuff, some hard times, don't got much money in their pocket, don't have many resources, may or may not be high on drugs. If they are high on drugs, they're definitely not nearly as capable as I am physically. You know, I'm 6'2", 180 pounds. You know, it's not like if you're drunk, I wouldn't want to go up against me. So that's kind of realistically. And that, I mean, in doing the annual march, that's partially why I do it, to teach you. And I invite you, please join us next year. There's nothing to be afraid of. These are your friends, neighbors. This guy may have lived next door to you yesterday, and there's nothing for you to fear. He's waiting for you to come and say, "Hey, brother, I'm here for you. We love you. We need you to check back in." And then the second question you asked was, what was the second question you asked? You asked about the scared one. Okay, and then to determine the veterans, what branch were you in? Air Force. What was your MOS? Or actually, what do you guys call it in the Air Force?
I'm sorry.
What do you guys call it? We call it MOS in the Army. What do you guys call it in the Air Force? Your job. What do you guys call it?
AFSC.
Okay, what was your AFSC?
77170.
Okay, and how long did you serve?
8 years.
8 years. Nice. That is all I would need to know whether you were a veteran or not. Because if I was talking to somebody out there in the street, they wouldn't know that. I mean, if they did, because their dad served or whatever, it would be a really sophisticated memorization of something. And realistically, I think I've had maybe 1 or 2 people that, you know, were accused of stolen valor, and I still helped them.
How many of the homeless are single women?
I'd say probably 10% of the unhoused population are single women. Probably 20% are women as a whole. They say 25% of the population are veterans. They say over 50% are over 60. So to kind of give an assessment of the homeless population. It's not a whole bunch of kids that are running away from home, want to have fun. They're traditionally just regular people. I've met doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers. Like I've the whole array of people. I mean, I've met people that inspired me, that I looked up to, taught me a lot. So definitely the idea that it's a certain particular group that are homeless, it's pretty wide ranging. But the big thing that sticks out and why I do the work I do is because for years, 25% of the homeless population have been veterans. All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, thank you so much.
We'd like to present you with a check for the Veterans Rescue Mission in amount of $300. Yes, and we have a challenge coin for you, okay? Well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Okay, we will have the treasurer's report. Gordon?
Good morning, everybody. Here is the treasurer's report for the period of 4/1 to 4/31. We started with a balance of $7,498.12. On the first, I made a deposit of $489. That was $256 in cookout tickets, $55 from the tin can, $30 in shirt sales. We had a lady donate a plate from where the yard sale was. It was like a World War II B-17 plate. And I sold that for $20. And on the wall, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but a man who did an art exhibition out there put one of his pictures up for sale, and proceeds donated to the Veterans Club, and that was $125. That equaled the $489. On the 13th, I made a deposit of $1,800. That was totally from the sale of hamburgers from Music Under the Stars. So that was a biggie. No problem, Ben. I got kind of getting into it there. On the 16th, I made a deposit of $718, of which $523 were from cookout ticket sales. $195 were from bingo donations. And Karen Mitchell donated 20, Marcia Salalat, $10, Sharon Nees, $20, Cindy Dwyer, $75, Judy D'Amato, $20, Michelle Berth, $15, Kathy Bigham, $5, and Dana Elder, $30. So all those people who won at bingo kicked back some of their winnings for $195 total. On the 20th, I made a deposit of $1,070, and that was $570 of ticket sales from the barbecue. And Tim and Kay from Diamondback donated $500 towards the expense of it. On the 20th, I made a deposit of, actually I didn't, but PayPal came in for $319.53. Kind of an odd thing, but they take their piece from the ticket sales of the barbecue also. Expenses on the first, $75.32 to Dennis for reimbursement on donuts. $161.75 went to Sharon for reimbursement on cookout supplies. On the 13th, I wrote a check to Old Pueblo Community Services. They have a new program on Market Street going in, and we earmarked it for that. On the 13th, I also wrote a check for $1,500 to the Veterans VA Service and gave it to Monica there at the VA. I also wrote a check for $1,000 to Soldier's Best Friend, an organization that takes care of military. On the 13th, I wrote another check to VA Veterans Services, earmarked for the blind rehab section, which is off the Rose Garden, if you've ever been over there. And finally, on the 20th, I wrote a check for $1,020, which was expenses from the barbecue and the Music Under the Stars. Final balance, $6,536.91. Questions? I have one other thing that I want to talk about, and is anyone here 100% service disability connected? Okay, 2. Well, it has been passed and I have been approved that if you take your form that shows your percentage of disability to the assessor's office, I've totally had my property tax erased. So that's big. That's about $2,500 or more. So if anybody needs that, I have the forms that they sent me. I'll give you a copy of it. That's it.
I want to ask the membership if they know of, we're asking if for any new charity recommendations for veterans causes. If anybody has a recommendation, we certainly would like to take that before the board, and maybe they would be a future charity for us to be able to donate to. And as we are always looking for new veterans to interview who are willing to share their personal military story. Some may think their tour of duty was uneventful and not as important, but service to our country in any capacity is very important. So you can see me, you can see Larry, if any of these are willing to stand up and for me to interview, and we would be more than happy. We do a recording. Tim puts it on a thumb drive. It is something that you could share, give to your families so that they know your military history. And under old business, we still have challenge coins available for purchase. They're $10. Anybody who, this is on a strictly voluntary basis for 2026 dues. We would also have that available. And Dick, do you want to come up and say something about kind of what we have in the works here for?
Something not related to embroidered shirts. We're having a board meeting later today. The board is planning to put together a program that relates to some of the tax implications of a club now that we're a 501(c)(3) charity, so that donations to us now are tax deductible. And the tax changes in January, I think it was January, made some other changes. And a person that many of you in the room know, Mark Stein, was a financial advisor with a pretty large firm here, has agreed to come back to the club and discuss that during one of our meetings. And the board probably is going to put out an invitation at the time this occurs to the general population, because it'll be related to the tax changes that relate to us older people. Thank you.
Okay, we want to welcome any new or returning attendees. Robert? Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I was in the Navy, and my first job was I taught nuclear physics to enlisted people in Orlando. And then I went to sub school, and I was the reactor, reactor assistant on the Thomas Edison and the Patrick Henry. We did commission both of those ships, and I have a piece of the hull from one of them on my plaque at home. That's my Navy service. After leaving the Navy, I went out and found submarines, or I helped General Electric to find submarines with developing sonars. And then I worked for another company called SAIC, where I worked on laser systems mostly. Again, for the Navy. And I've been here in Rincon about, this is Sunflower. I've been in Rincon before that, which is just south here, this is our fourth winter in Tucson, and our second month here at Sunflower. I just come in and check out and see what you're all doing, and
yeah, welcome.
Things of that nature.
Welcome aboard.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think we have another gentleman here who's new to our organization.
My name is Reuben Martin, and I'm from the U.S. Army, and I spent most of my time overseas in Germany. And I retired, and I started a real estate company, and then my wife decided to move to Tucson, and so here I am.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to acknowledge? Okay. Oh, okay.
My name is Mary Duran. I've been here with my husband for 2 weeks. We live in Connecticut. I am a 27-year Navy nurse practitioner veteran, 100% disabled, and I still work as a nurse practitioner in the state of Connecticut. And we have his family here, so we decided after 2 blizzards last winter in Connecticut that it was time for us to snowbird next winter. So we're here for about 5 weeks settling the house, and his family's gonna look out for the house for us, and we're gonna be back after the holidays.
Thank you. Thank you very much. David, you want to come up and just give a little, help people to understand what you're all about.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Morales. I am the commander of DAV Chapter 4. We're right behind the Bisbee Breakfast Cafe in the back strip mall. In 1920, DAV was formed, and the reason that it got formed was because the way the United States was treating its veterans. In 1923, Arizona became part of the DAV. September 13, 1926, DAV Chapter 4 became part of the DAV. So September 13th of this year, we're going to be 100 years old. We depend strictly on donations. We put it to good use. We had 4 chapters in Tucson. We had Chapter 2, Chapter 4, 18, and 28. 2 of those chapters have gone down. Chapter 2 went down because they had a bar and a restaurant, and something happened that it went down. Chapter 28, which is in Valencia and Campbell, they went down too. We, Chapter 4, do not have a bar, do not have a restaurant. All we do is when you come in, we answer questions. You'd be surprised how many people want a question answered, and we give them the answer. We got to go to school every year to be certified. We are certified service officers. The people in Phoenix are national service officers. We do the paperwork, we send it to Phoenix, and Phoenix looks at it, makes sure everything is okay, and they send it to the VA. They represent you against the VA. Before all this started, I had a question this morning. You know, when you join the military, you sign a blank check. And the United States government can do anything they feel that they want with you. They can send you to war, they can send you here. In other words, in the military, you're a broken down compass. You never know where you're going. The other thing is the veterans, or I should say the military persons that pull the trigger. There is 22 people behind that person. He just doesn't pull the trigger. You know, you got 22 people that allow you to pull that trigger. If one of those 22 people doesn't do their job, you can't pull the trigger. For example, the person that's giving you the ammunition, if he fails to do his job, well, you got no bullets to fire. And the other thing, I'm talking for myself and for many other veterans, when you do pull that trigger, it messes up your mind. And I remember the first time I pulled the trigger, I couldn't sleep for a week. And the reason that I couldn't sleep for a week is I killed somebody. And it's not right to kill people. Well, the thing is, for the longest time, I thought I was a murderer because I had killed somebody. But no, I'm not a murderer. I'm a survival person. I survived the war. And by me surviving, not only did I survive myself, I survived everybody who was next to me, because if I didn't do my job, they were going to get killed. So I helped them come home. And all I have to say is, in war, I call it the 10% affliction. The first 90%, you're bored to death. Anytime you're in combat, 90% of the time, you're filling sandbags, you're writing letters, you're reading letters that you have, you're constantly busy, because it's bad to be vacant, doing nothing. You got to do something. The 10%, that's why I call it the 10% affliction, is you're in actual combat. And I can tell you, people think getting high on drugs is high. No, no, no. Getting high is when you're getting shot at. Your palms sweat. Your heart feels like it's going to pump out of your chest. And that's why they call it the 10% affliction, because those 10%, you do things that you normally wouldn't do, but it's called survival. Not only did you survive, but you also survive your companions with you. And all I have to say is any of you need help filling out a disability claim, go see us. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 3, and we're not going to close shop. We depend on the donations, and because that's all we depend on, we get donations from here. We even get from this Veterans Club, and we put it to good use. Also, we do help veterans. Like if a veteran comes in, say he's going from LA to El Paso, and he needs gas money, we give him gas money. But we have, I'm getting, anyway, we tell the person one time only. If you come in a month from now, we can't help you. Because if you help them more than once, we're gonna have a line all the way to Ina Road. So one time only, but we do help the veterans, and we have a 250 limit. Like say they want to pay their electricity bill. First of all, are you a veteran? We have to see the DD 214 or the VA health card. I'll give you a real good example of this. A guy came in and I told him, let me see your DD 214. And he told me, what's a DD 214? Get out of here. You know, I can't help you. So anyway, we're there to help the veteran. And the most person I love to help are the widows. Ever since Marana did the Veteran Cemetery in Marana, we're getting about 4 to 5 widows a week. It's called a DIC, Dependency Indemnity Compensation. It's 20 pages long. You can't ask a widow to fill it out, so they come see us, and we fill it out for them. And I'm glad to say that of the widows, 6 of them that I helped, I went to school with. So, you know, it's a great honor for me to be able to help somebody that I know. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. And remember, you're not a murderer, you're a survival person. And you help other people survive by doing your job. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else for the good of the cause? Larry? Oh.
My name is Dennis, and this last week I was over to the Northwest VA clinic. And I'm sitting there with about 30 other people waiting to be served. And all of a sudden, this troop comes in. I mean, a troop. This is big, tall man with 13 people like bees comes walking in. He stops them and he walks over to us. And I got to meet the head person for the VA. He's the secretary of the VA. His name is Doug Collins. The reason I want to mention that is because you have a lot of bad news on the government. This man has only been there since February. He's already reduced the backlog by 50% of claims. He is a man on the ground. He came over, he talked to me, he talked to 4 other people, shook our hand, looked us in the eye. And you have to realize this man is 6'2" or 4". He's from Georgia and he has that great Southern accent. But I want to tell you, here's a man that's going to help us.
I have a couple things. Out at the cemetery on the 22nd at 8 a.m., they'll be placing flags for Memorial Day. And on the 25th, on Memorial Day itself, there'll be a ceremony at 10 a.m. Also here in Sunflower on the 22nd, we'll be placing flags at 7 a.m. And on the 25th, we'll be picking them up at 7 p.m. So I just want to let everybody know, give you a heads up that that's the time frames we're looking at for placing flags and the ceremony out at the cemetery.
And anyone that wants to help place the flags, we're always open for people to help us place those flags. Okay, our next meeting is June 3rd, and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.